Today, we're gonna have a look at one of my absolutely favorite calisthenics skill. A skill that combines upside down control and strength unlike any other. You already know it. I'm talking about the handstand push-up. In any level, from your very first pike push-up to the very advanced deep handstand push-up. When done correctly, training for the handstand push-up is gonna allow you to pick up so many free skills along the way that training for the handstand push-up is truly worth it for you. You're gonna learn, for example, how to do a bend arm press, lower down to the headstand with full control, transition into the crow, and push back up all the way into the handstand. There's really two reasons why anybody would train for the handstand push-up. Number one, because you want to increase your upper body pushing strength using body weight exercises only. And number two, because you want to gain more control in your handstands. Every single time that you fall towards the back of your hands in under balance, the only way to save your handstand is by bending the elbows and by performing a small handstand push-up. Now, it shouldn't matter which one of these two goals you're training for, strength or handstand control, the general handstand push-up exercises and progressions are going to look exactly the same. The only thing that you want to keep in mind is that if you are training for strength, you want to cut all balance out of the equation, because as soon as balance enters the equation, you're going to have to invest strength, energy and focus into holding your balance, and you're not going to be able to overload your muscles effectively and efficiently to gain as much strength as you possibly could. Obviously, the handstand push-up starts in a strong and straight handstand. Hands shoulder width apart, you can have them slightly wider, but you got to keep in mind, the wider that you put your hands on the floor, the less range your body is going to travel on the handstand push-up, meaning the less muscles you're going to gain. The first thing we actually want to do if we want to do a perfectly clean handstand push-up is simply leaning the shoulders towards the front. We stay in elevation, but we also begin to protract, rolling the shoulder blades towards the front like you're trying to make your anterior deltoids touch in front of your chest. At this point, your elbows are still fully locked. Now from here, we're going to move down on a vertical plane only. You're bending your elbows, your forehead is going down towards the floor in front of your hands. Stay protracted at all costs, keep your core engaged, back straight, legs engaged. Your scapula started in full elevation, but is slowly now going to slide out of elevation to allow your body to travel into this handstand push-up movement. Keep your elbows narrow. If you want to flare them, try not to flare them for more than 45 degrees. Freeze down here for a second. Now you're going to begin to extend the elbows, keeping the shoulders in front. Again, traveling up only on a vertical plane, and only then, once your elbows are fully locked out, you're going to bring your shoulders back towards your starting position. In an ideal world, the way down and the way back up should always be exactly the same, and I want you to be looking at your hands at all times for you to be able to actually stay in control of your handstand. Looking at the handstand push-up, it becomes very quickly clear that the main muscles involved here are going to be your shoulder overhead pushing muscles, or in other words, your anterior deltoids, your upper chest, and of course your triceps muscles. Your back is engaging in order to hold the legs and the hips up. Your legs are engaging because they have to stay tight. If your legs wobble, they make up half of your body, you will fall. Protraction becomes key in the bottom part of the handstand push-up when your elbows are bent. Your serratus anterior, or the boxer muscle, is responsible for this protraction, and training this muscle is going to be extremely beneficial when working towards your handstand push-up. Lat mobility can also play a major aspect in your handstand push-up training. If you're not able to reach your arms overhead without the internal resistance created by a lack of mobility, you can be pretty sure that you're not going to be strong enough to push past this limit of mobility and your own body weight to truly extend overhead. Last but not least, body weight can also play a major aspect when it comes to your freestanding handstand push-up or your handstand push-up in general. The heavier you are, the more weight you have to move against gravity. At the end of the day, you're military pressing, you're shoulder pressing your entire body weight. So of course, getting leaner is going to make your handstand push-up significantly easier. To assure growth, progressive overload is key. At the gym, that's simple. You pick up a weight, and the next week you pick up a heavier weight, and then maybe you do a couple more reps and you go up again in weight. Now, for your handstand push-up, you can't slim down a lot, get super light, learn the handstand push-up, and then slowly put weight back on. That would be an absolute dream, but that's not how life works. Instead, we use progressions. The idea of the progressions for the handstand push-up is to start with an exercise that you can currently do and to slowly build your way up all the way to the freestanding handstand. It's actually quite simple. We just elevate the feet more and more to transfer weight from the feet into the hands. The very first progression that we're going to look at today is the pike push-up. Now, if you cannot do a pike push-up just yet, have a look at this link right here where I'm breaking down in detail how you can get your very first pike push-up. From here, you start to elevate your feet, elevated pike push-up. Elevate your feet on a table or a box to get to the L handstand pike push-up. The goal is that your legs are approximately parallel to the floor when you're at the bottom position of the pike push-up. elevating the feet even more, you get to the back to the wall handstand push-up before finally doing the chest to wall handstand push-up. So far, all of the progressions that we looked at were only there to build strength. And if you're training the handstand push-up entirely because you want to build overhead pushing strength, then this is the end of your road and this is a perfect spot for you. Now here's what I want you to do while you work through this. To build strength, we have to keep intensity high and rep count low. I want you to shoot for a minimum of 3 to better 4 reps per set. Anything less than that would dial your intensity up so high that your risk of injuries also skyrockets. Between sets, I want you to rest for 3 minutes for your body and muscles to actually get a chance to fully recover so you can go hard again for your next set. We want hard working set. Every single set should be close to failure when you're training for your handstand push-up. If you are moving on and you eventually want to combine this and move this into the freestanding handstand, then we now have to talk about introducing balance into the equation. It's going to make things significantly harder because if you're not strong enough, it doesn't matter how good you are at balancing, you're not going to make it up. And if you're really strong, well, you're still not going to make it up if you're not good at balancing. So from the very start, from day one of you training for your handstand push-up, I want you to start training for your freestanding handstand. I want you to train at the wall because I want you to focus on form and on alignment. We need to make your handstand as well aligned and as efficient as possible. Because if you're standing in a banana handstand, your handstand is exhausting. You're gonna invest all of your power and energy into holding this banana handstand and nothing is gonna be left for your actual handstand push-up. I want you to train the slide away exercise. I want you to train chest to wall shoulder corrections. And I want you to train freestanding handstand leans to really prepare you as much as possible as we can for this freestanding handstand push-up when it comes to the time that you actually start training for it. You know that you're truly ready to start moving into the open space and do the freestanding handstand push-up when you can do this slide away handstand push-up where you lean the shoulders towards the front, you do a chest to wall handstand push-up without unleaning the shoulders at the end of the movement, and you can then simply take the feet off the wall without having to jump or kick off the wall. The main problem of the freestanding handstand push-up is that we don't have fingers in the back of our hand, meaning we have to constantly keep the weight in front in the fingertips. Now the problem with keeping the weight in front is that really it's there where it's difficult. That means you have to constantly commit to doing the difficult thing. It's very much like doing a pistol squat. If in your pistol squat you lean towards the front into the toes, it becomes easy to push back up. But as soon as your weight travels into your heel during the pistol squat, you're gonna fall out just like you do in the freestanding handstand push-up. Of course, training handstand push-ups on parallels is going to be significantly easier when it comes to balance, because instead of just pushing the fingers into the floor, you can grab the bars and actually take control of your handstand push-up. No matter how focused you stay during training, if you follow these couple progressions that I just gave to you, you're probably not going to make it to the freestanding handstand push-up. And this is simply because the gap between not being able to do anything and the pike push-up, or between the L handstand push-up and the back to wall handstand push-up is simply too big. And to be frank, you can find plateaus or these limiting points anywhere throughout your journey. This is why we introduce plateau breakers, strategies to basically bridge the gap between one and the next progression. The idea is that every week you go to the gym with a new progression, with a new slight adjustment that you think you're going to be able to make work. This means at the end of every week, you finish fueled, ready for the next week because you succeeded something. You can see yourself moving up the ladder of progressions. You're not going to burn out. You're going to feel good about yourself, and you can actually see how the handstand push-up is something in grasp for you, not a far away distant goal, because the next progression is always possible. Now, I'm not going to spill out every single variation that is for you. Instead, I'm going to explain to you the concepts that make these plateau breakers work, and you can from there figure out how you can apply them to your actual handstand push-up training. Option number one will be going down to an easier progression and increasing the range of motion. Increased range means traveling further by elevating the hands. If you travel further, your exercise becomes longer, there's more time under tension, but also your muscles are being stretched more, which means they're going to be weaker in this end range the further you go. The further you go, the more muscle you're going to build. Of course, we can also do the exact opposite. We can move to a progression that's more difficult than what we're currently doing and do partial reps, meaning you place, for example, a yoga block in between your hands so you don't go all the way down. Less time under tension, less stretch of the muscle, easier progression. You can also increase intensity by adding a dead stop. That would, for example, be a box squat or adding a headstand in an L handstand push-up. By adding this dead stop, you're canceling out the stretch reflex of your muscle, making it significantly harder to reapply pressure and pushing yourself back up. Of course, if all fails, you can go to the progression that you're currently at and simply add a weighted vest to make the progression more difficult again, before then moving on to the next progression without the weighted vest. When you're just moving into a completely new progression, like for example, from the L to the back to wall handstand push-up, or from the wall handstand push-up to the freestanding handstand push-up, practicing eccentrics is a really great way to build general stability, control, and understanding for how the exercise actually works. The goal here is to go as slow as possible and to possibly lower down all the way to the headstand if it's safe for you. All of these strategies are also combinable in between each other. One of these is, for example, that you could lower down in the L handstand push-up, then place your knee on the box and push back up. We have a high intensity exercise on the eccentric phase where it's difficult, and a lower intensity exercise on the way back up where the exercise naturally is harder. So you're kind of keeping intensity of the exercise on the same level the entire time. Performing drop sets is also a really great way of really squeezing out whatever is left. Again, the example of the L handstand push-up, you do regular reps, and then when you don't have any strength left, you place your knees on the box and you can bust out a couple more in this easier progression. This would, for example, be a really great way to finish your week strong. Look, weight training was invented for a reason. Strength training uses weights for a reason. It's convenient, it's practical, and it's a very quick and effective way of building shoulder overhead pushing strength. I strongly recommend you, if you're serious about training calisthenics and handstand push-ups, don't shy away from picking up weights. It's gonna change your progress significantly. The main thing to keep in mind here though is that even though this is great for building strength, as your body doesn't understand where the strength stimuli comes from, just training shoulder presses alone is not gonna help you unlock the handstand push-up, because in the shoulder press, you're using the most effective way to get the hands overhead. In the handstand push-up, you're using whichever way works in order for you to stay in balance. So it is also impossible to say that you have to push X amount of body weight with the weights before you can do the handstand push-up, because it is simply too different. Then of course, there's all the additional bodyweight pushing exercises such as push-ups, dips, and serratus anterior training such as scapular protraction push-ups or planche leads. No matter which progression you're currently at, let it be the pike push-up, the L handstand push-up, the chest to wall handstand push-up, or even the freestanding handstand push-up, you will make mistakes on your way to mastering all of these. The reason for most of these mistakes is actually the same. You're simply lacking strength. If your back is arching as you're pushing back up, you're lacking protraction strength. Your shoulder blades are sliding into retraction, which is pushing your ribs out. Your legs arch over to keep the weight in your fingertips because your body is trying not to fall. If that's you, use an easier progression for the next 2 weeks, build extra strength, then come back. The second thing that might happen is that your elbows flare out during your handstand push-up, during your pike push-up. Now, theoretically, that's not a terrible thing. There's a couple things we got to keep in mind here. Depending on your specific shoulder anatomy, flaring out the elbows might cause shoulder impingement. This doesn't have to be for everybody like this. You might be able to do your handstand push-up, your military presses with your elbows all the way out. I can't, most of my clients can't. This is not a good or a bad thing. This is just about your particular anatomy. Unless you are sure that you will not get injured, force yourself to keep your elbows in. Keeping the elbows in is going to make it easier to lean. It's going to help you advance towards more advanced progressions such as extra deep handstand push-ups or the 90-degree push-up, and it's going to protect you from injuries. The elbows usually flare due to a lack of lean, or easier said, because the head is not far enough in front. Place a yoga block or some kind of an obstacle between your hands and where you're going to place your head. Make sure you clear that object in every single rep. Another problem that I see, especially at the beginning when people are training L handstand push-ups and pike push-ups, is that the elbows stick out towards the back. You want to make sure your forearms stay vertical at all times. Another bad habit is locking out the shoulders and elbows, pushing the armpits towards the feet or towards the wall at the top of your movement. Now, if you're doing handstand push-ups just to build strength, there is an argument to make here that you want to fully finish the movement to its fullest range of motion, so you're pushing your shoulders open as much as you can. Look, the problem with this is that you're going to do this in a freestanding handstand too, and you're going to fall every single time. If you're really here purely just because you want to build strength, maybe consider just forgetting about all of this and picking up weights. It's just going to be more effective. But if you are training calisthenics because you love it, then train it so you can build on it. Because I promise you one thing, even if you say you never want to do it freestanding, once you reach the chest to wall handstand push-up, you're never going to sleep again until you can do it freestanding. At the end of the day, there's 3 ways how you can incorporate this handstand push-up training into your routine. Number 1, you'll pick and choose a couple handstand push-up strength exercises and do them at the end of your regular handstand training or at the end of your yoga class or whatever that you're actually training. Number 2, if you're a gym rat, you're gonna take the handstand push-up exercises and simply replace your military press, your overhead press, your incline chest press, all of these kind of things with these specific handstand push-up exercises. Lastly, option number 3, my preferred option, is that you're gonna do dedicated, specific handstand push-up training sessions. No matter which one of these options you choose, there's 2 rules to follow. Number 1, always make sure you train your technical handstands before any kind of strength work. And number 2, when it comes to your strength training, do your hardest progression first, right after the warm-up, because that's when your general nervous system and really your entire body is the freshest. If you are choosing to do dedicated handstand push-up sessions, then here's what I want you to do. You're gonna start with a general warm-up followed by injury prevention work for your shoulders and for your wrists. If needed, now is a good time to stretch your lats and to invest into overhead mobility. From here, you're gonna go into your handstand training. You're mainly gonna train at the wall because you wanna make sure your line is as perfect as it could possibly be. And you're gonna invest 80 to 90% of your time into exercises that actually work so you don't waste your time and energy falling down left and right. From here, we're gonna move into our handstand push-up specific training. We're already warm. We're gonna start with the hardest handstand push-up exercise of the day of our current training cycle. Follow this with accessory exercises. Say, for example, our hardest exercise right now is the partial L handstand push-up. You're gonna wanna do an extra deep pike push-up, for example, as an accessory exercise to work especially that range that you were not training during your hardest exercise. Follow this with isolation work. We're all gonna work on protraction strength here because, let's be honest, the protraction strength is just so very important for the handstand push-up. Additionally, you're probably gonna do some weighted dips here, maybe some regular push-ups, isolate your triceps. What you don't have to do is isolating your anterior deltoids because all of these exercises that we're doing here are already so very anterior deltoid heavy that isolating them on top is either a waste of your time or just a general overload of your anterior deltoids, which is gonna cause you more harm than good. Lastly, of course, you're gonna do a bit of a cool down, post-workout stretches for your biceps tendon, your anterior deltoids, your triceps, whatever you feel you worked hard. And there you have it. Truly everything that you need to know if you wanna learn the freestanding handstand push-up, or if you simply wanna use the handstand push-up to build overhead pushing strength. Look, all of the information that I've given you here, I've put together into one big program. The program is quite fascinating because your handstand push-up progressions are basically like the red line of the program, right? Depending on how strong you currently are, you're gonna know in which stage of the program to start. But all of the other points around it, handstand control, overhead mobility, chest strength, dip strength, all of this is customized to fit exactly your current level. So as you're progressing towards your handstand push-up, all of these flying parts of your workouts are already calculated for you and adjusted for you every single workout. If you're just getting started, then have a look at my brand new Essential Calisthenics Strength collection that is out today. It's a collection of workouts that's gonna help you achieve your very first push-up, pike push-up, chin-up, leg lifts, pistol squat, all of those kind of things packed together so you can get started straight away today and you can prepare yourself for the handstand push-up, for the planche, no matter what's to come. Guys, thank you so much for training with me. If you want to learn more of how to build strength with calisthenics, check out my podcast episode right here. And if you want to take your handstand off the wall, then check out this follow-along workout. Until next time, get to work.